Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Rob Evans, and I'm your transformation coach, health strategist, and internationally published author, helping take your life and your business, your health, fitness, mindset, and today fashion to where it is that you are right now, to where it is that you want to be. I have a tremendous guest, fashion designer Liz Clift, all the way from the Gold Coast. But Liz has such an extensive success record. She's an award-winning designer. I think she's won every single thing that exists in fashion in Queensland. She's also won a fashion award internationally in New York. She's, I think I've got this right, that you also teach in Paris. You've got pop-up shops, and just recently you've got a shopping, you're on the shopping network. I'm trying to think of the word of it, the shopping network. So Liz, welcome to the show. It's a privilege to have you here.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
So Liz, I've got so many questions I'd like to ask you, from business to, what inspires you and so forth. But perhaps let's tell the audience a little bit how you got started from 15 and not knowing what to wear, and then just creating it yourself and to where you are now.
Well, I couldn't find what I liked in the stores. So my mother had taught me how to sew. I grew up on a sheep property, so we had a lot of long wintry days. And so I learned to sew. And on the Gold Coast here, wherever I went, people wanted to know where I got my clothing. So I started sewing for people and set up a little business by the time I was 16. And then boutiques wanted my ranges. So I was sewing and making for boutiques.
Yeah, sweet. So it's just give us a bit of an, I'm not great with that, but my suit right now and everything is about as fashionable as I get. So what type of clothes, like formal wear, casual wear, somewhere in between?
It was resort wear. Well, going back to the 70s, it was very avant-garde, Woodstock-ish, dating myself here, but it was the hipsters with the flares and midriff tops, lots of flower power.
Yeah, sweet. And so obviously in the intro, I mentioned the things that you've have done since then. I know you're very humble, but maybe tell us how you went from that to, you said you have boutique stores asking for your fashion and so forth. So what's sort of the process that it went through to get to where you are now?
I entered at the Queensland Fashion Designer Awards, and I was 17 and I won everything. And so more boutiques wanted me to design for them. And then when I was 20, I opened a boutique on the Isle of Capri. And to become known, I had a label, Pruactin, and it was a very big label at the time. And so what I did, I started infiltrating my clothes into the store. And It ended up totally my designs in the store. And that was under my maiden name, Liz Bruff. And when I then married and had a restaurant of all things, so I cooked for 200 people, 300 people every day and did my designing in the afternoons. Then I decided at 25 to go to Paris and study. So that was another sliding door in my life.
Okay, so studying fashion.
Studying fashion in Paris. My tutors were Karl Lagerfeld, Sonia Rykiel, Chantal Thomas, and I had so much fun there, and I did so well. They invited me back as a guest lecturer, and I've been lecturing there now. I think I've been there 53 times to lecture at the fashion school. Yeah,
wow. And so then New York, how did that lead to the award in New York?
Oh gosh, well, a lot happened in the interim. So much has happened. I've wholesaled for boutiques around Australia, also in America. When we had an economic crisis in the late 80s, I went into bread and butter clothing, which were uniforms. So I did the Hamilton Island Resort. I did all the uniforms for 10 years, international hotels, theme parks, a cruise boat. I did anything that was lucrative. Yeah. And you bite the bullet and you forget about your ego with your $10,000 couture gowns, and you're designing housemaid garments. So
Yes.
You pivot, you twist, you turn.
Yeah. Okay. And so we're still not in New York yet, Liz. So we've gone from the 80s and we're on Hamilton Island.
I know. Well, that's a lot to cover in 40, 50 years. But so with New York, I was actually dressing Sherry Alliston, who you probably know. She's the world's #1 female speaker. And the International Association of Top Professionals commented on her clothing, and she said, "Oh, you must contact Liz Clift." So they got in touch with me and they asked for a bullet point history of my career. And that was 6, 8 months ago. And I didn't expect to hear from them again. And then they said that my nomination had been accepted and I had won the Fashion Stylist of the Year, which was very surprising to me because I don't dress anyone famous like Beyonce, or I do movies. I've designed wardrobes for movies where I go on set to get the feel for the scenes. I've done a number of TV shows where I've designed the wardrobes for the TV shows. And I've done stage shows like the Rocky Horror Show and Australia's Top Elvis Impersonator. I've done his jumpsuits. And I've had a lot of fun with rock bands with their stage gear. But they said, actually, no, it's not who dresses the most famous people. It's what I have done in my career. So when you think of the length of time I've been designing, I started out basically as a graphic artist, and a lot of my clothing, I printed the fabrics myself. And I do a reversible travel range of clothing. So they're printed different prints side to side.
Okay.
And I'm a fashion illustrator. And then I'm a fashion writer for newspapers and magazines. And pretty much you name it in the fashion world, I've done it.
Yes.
So I was a photographic model when I was younger. So there's really nothing in the fashion arena that I haven't done.
Yes. Yeah. Wow.
And that's why I won.
Yeah. Nice. Well done. Congratulations. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Where does your inspiration come from now? Because obviously, like, so you mentioned about Woodstock, the 70s and so forth.
Yeah.
So where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, that was the 70s. Going through the 80s, we had Dallas and Dynasty. Of course, it was the big shoulders and glamour, glamour, glamour. So then we pivoted to a more relaxed resort wear scene. I had to give away the haute couture. I mean, my gowns sold in Beverly Hills, and they were average price $10,000 per item. I was bringing fabrics in from Zurich that were $500 a meter, and I had a lot of fun designing those exquisite gowns. But the entertainers I was designing for wanted to borrow them because the economy was so bad. And I'm not a banker, and too old for ego of having someone wearing my gown for nothing. So I thought, no, forget that. And just basically resort wear, because everyone goes on holidays, they travel, and especially where I live on the Gold Coast, it is a resort atmosphere.
Yes.
So that's what I do now.
So do you look at, say, other designers around the world and see what they're doing? Say, oh, this seems to be a new trend right now. I better adapt what it is that I'm doing, or are there certain colors that, inspire you?
Well, obviously, I go to the fashion trade shows. I was just in Milan for September for the trade show. I go to the Paris trade shows. I've been to Spain, to Madrid. I'm going to Athens in January. And you have to keep your finger on the pulse, obviously. I tend to go a little bit outside of the box, because if the colors are all jewel colors, I'll then perhaps throw in some offbeat colors because all the shops are full of the one color. So I tend to cover all bases, really. I'm not a believer in people coming into the store saying, I'm winter or I'm summer or I'm spring. And sometimes I look at them and saying, there's a color you haven't tried yet. You really must try this. And so I do a lot of styling.
And is there a particular like demographic that you style for, like certain age or anything, or it doesn't really matter?
It's interesting. I have girls that come in who are 18 and they want to go night clubbing, and I've got clothes for them. And I had an interesting day. I had an 18-year-old girl. She was about to go to Paris to model for Fashion Week, and she was doing a photo shoot in Dubai. So I dressed her. And I had a client come in who was going on a cruise, and she was 83. They actually bought from the same look, but in different variations. And I had to take a photograph of them. It was so surreal, the two different age groups. And they both got away with wearing this really fun look. So basically I designed from, 18 to death. I've got a client, she's 93, and she was in the Folies Bergère in Paris. And she's still a stunning woman. She's about 5'11", very tall, very athletic. And she wears my tight designer jeans and my beautiful, crazy shirts. And she's 93.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice. So it's good to be adaptable. Right?
Yeah.
So from a business perspective, like my impression standing from the outside is that you could say, well, all business is business, but I see that a fashion business is way more difficult than, say, other businesses, because it can be you either appeal or you don't kind of thing. Whereas a lot of businesses, well, yeah, you still get customers no matter what. What's your perception as to how hard it is to be successful in the fashion industry and run your business as well as you do?
I think, and this is what I say to my fashion students, like, walk the streets, see what's happening on the streets in Paris, streets in Milan. If you can't afford to go there, Google it. See what's happening in your hometown, what people are wearing. I find just sitting in cafes in New York, Paris, Milan, and people watching, that tells you what's happening trend-wise. And you're continually pivoting, twisting and turning. And I do a lot of classic clothing that you can accessorize to get that twist and to get that turn. Okay. So you do follow the fashion trends, but you give it your own slant, just to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah. And so you mentioned there, obviously, New York, Paris, Milan. So sitting in the Gold Coast, you get that same, because I imagine there's a vast range of people coming in dressed in thongs and all kinds of things. I say thongs, people in the overseas are going to think I'm meaning underwear. I mean flip-flops, they call them over there. But do you get much inspiration by sitting in a cafe observing the Gold Coast, or not so?
Well, it's interesting because there's certain areas of the Gold Coast we have a lot of international tourists, and of course they make a lot of movies at Movie World, so you can, have fun star spotting, and it's a very relaxed atmosphere here. But the locals do dress up. There's so many charity lunches, especially after COVID. There were like 3 events a week. And everyone's racing into, you know that if it's the month for breast cancer, you carry a lot of pink in your store. Around February with Valentine's Day, you carry a lot of red. It's just, you look at what events are happening.
Yes. And so another, I know this has been fairly recent for you getting on to the shopping network. Is that what you call it? Yeah. So tell us, what's that from a business perspective? What is that process like? How do you get on there? How successful? I know it's been successful, but maybe you can tell the audience what you're willing to share about the success of that.
Well, it was quite incredible. As you know, I interviewed Brooke Shields with JT Fox in LA in 2018, I think it was. And she has a clothing label on the shopping channel in America. And JT said to me, that's something I should look at because it's mass orders and it's guaranteed payment, which is really good. So when we had an economic crisis in the late 80s, I was stocking boutiques around Australia. And I did uniforms for an international hotel in Sydney. And the world market just collapsed. And I just nearly lost my house. So it's hard when you're wholesaling to boutiques waiting for them to pay. What I do now, they pay me half up front. 2 weeks later, they get their order and they pay the balance. With the shopping channel, I took JT Fox's advice and contacted them. And interestingly enough, another fashion house had told them about me. And so they were very intrigued to see what I was doing. So I'm bringing clothing in for them, and it's rocking out the door, which is really exciting. And I'm doing the second order is in production right now for January. I have to fly to Sydney once a month to
like feature. Yeah. Yeah, nice. And so the timing from you reach out to you're actually on camera and selling, what sort of timing?
It was about 7 months.
Okay, so yeah, it took a while.
Yeah, I had to fly down with different samples, and you know, they of course had to see the quality and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, it was it. Then I had to go down to see if I was suitable for television.
Right.
So that was a bit nerve-wracking. And
you have to do a
screen test.
That's the word, yes.
Yeah. So that was fun.
And then you have to be able to like service the orders within a certain, like 2 weeks or something like that, do you?
No, they buy everything up front. They estimate what they're going to sell, and they place the order.
Right. Okay.
It's a guaranteed order.
Yeah. Right. That's pretty sweet for you.
Very.
Well done. Okay. And so that just keeps on continuing until they say, oh, the orders are dropping off, or we need to double the orders, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I did November, had a break in December because of course I was in New York. So January, possibly every second month, maybe each month, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now you had the opportunity to meet an incredible icon. Tell us about that experience.
Oh my goodness. It was like the equivalent of meeting the late Queen. Through JT Fox, he organized a meeting with Anna Wintour in New York at Condé Nast, in the Condé Nast offices. And she was nothing like Devil Wears Prada. She was just lovely.
Yes.
Very gracious.
Yes. I was doing some research on her this morning, actually, in preparation for this. And I see she's been, for those that don't know who that is, so she's the chief editor for Vogue and has been in that role since 1988. And yeah, well, from what I read, she has had an impact on changing global fashion. That's just how powerful her role is. So yeah, I can only imagine. I've seen the photo with you meeting her, and yeah, I can only imagine how incredible that experience was for you.
Oh, well, I'm on the Brisbane Fashion Council on the board, and we look at ways of helping young designers. It's very difficult for young designers to branch out into fashion because when I was growing up, oh my goodness, there were factories everywhere where you could go and learn how to make a pattern, how to cut, and just observe and watch what was going on. And now people are having clothing made in Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, China. They're not getting that experience. And so it's so hard coaching young students in Australia because there's nowhere really for them to get the hands-on practical experience. It's all very well going to TAFE and doing fashion classes, but you need to be breathing it.
You need your hand experience and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Anna has, she's on the board of the Fashion Council of America. So it was interesting to have a chat to her about that. And then, funnily enough, a few months later, I was in Paris for the Fashion Week, and I was walking through the lobby of the Ritz Hotel, and she was walking towards me, and she smiled, and I said, "Oh, hi, Liz Clift." She said, "Yes, I met you in March with JT Fox." So, and she had a group of people around her, rushing her off to the Chanel show. But she stopped and had a chat, and just lovely.
Yes. Yeah. Surreal.
Yeah, it was.
Well, in terms of, I'll ask you this question first. What would you say is really important to you right now?
Well, above all, it's family. And I've got 3 children and 5 grandchildren. So I'm overseas probably collectively 5 months a year. So when I'm home, I saturate myself with family.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'd have to say that would be the most important.
And what would you say is perhaps your biggest challenge that you're facing at the moment? It can't be family.
Oh, I don't have any.
No challenges? Oh, you need to push a bit harder then.
Everything just seems to come easy to. I mean, it was a challenge. I really wanted to go to Florida because JT has Tory Burch and Tommy Hilfiger there, I think. So, oh my God, I'm missing that. I'm devastated. But the shopping channel had to come first. So that was a challenge. You know, I really wanted to be there, but
yeah. Okay. So let's dig into the darkness for a moment. What would you say has been your greatest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Oh gosh, that would have to have been which financial crisis? I've gone through 3.
Well, you mentioned that you almost lost your house and so forth. I don't know where that's
3 times. I almost lost my house 3 times. So that was the late 80s, the late 90s.
2008.
Yeah, definitely that. Well, 2008, I bought an investment property at Broadbeach Waters that was very expensive, and put half the amount in again, renovating it. And the global financial crisis hit.
Yeah.
So another time I literally lost my house.
You'll be sitting pretty now,
stronger, so they say.
Same property. So give us an example of which is your lowest then, and what did you learn from it?
In fashion?
Oh, well, you can pick.
Well, that was the real estate where, I mean, it was a $1.1 million investment property, and then I put another $500,000 into it. And with the financial crisis, it went to half its value. So that was an ouch, very much an ouch. I think one of the regrets in my life, I was offered a job at Dior in Paris with Marc Bahan, who was the head designer at Dior. And that was when I was I was 25.
Okay.
And my first husband didn't want to live in France, and I had to turn it down. So I guess that's a sliding door where if I had taken that position, goodness knows where my life would have gone. Yeah. And I wouldn't have had my children and my life here. So I guess it's like Oprah says, nothing happens by accident. There's a reason for everything. But that has always sat with me that, oh my goodness, I turned down a job at Dior.
Yes. Yeah, okay. That lands heavy, doesn't it? What would you say if there are people out there, say younger people, that are wanting to get into fashion design, and your story is really inspiring them? What would your advice be to them? Let's say that they're in Australia.
Okay. Definitely, they have to live and breathe fashion. They have to be passionate, really passionate. I have students in front of me all the time where the parents don't know what to do with them. Oh, let them go to fashion school. And they don't really want to be there, or they have no idea what they're doing. They don't have the drive, the incentive. If they're not passionate, they're not going to succeed. So then they have to have schooling. I was self-taught, but I finished, I went to school in Paris. So you have to have that finer detailing in your career. If they can, it doesn't matter if it's a factory making board shorts, as long as they're on a factory floor and learning how to do patterns. And I mean, there are a lot of famous fashion designers that couldn't make a pattern if their life depended on it, but they can sketch and they can relay what they want to seamstresses and pattern makers. But if you want to have your own business, you have to work from the bottom up, and you have to know what your expectations are with quality from the pattern makers and the seamstresses. So it's just learn as much as you possibly can. And there's so much online now, which of course I didn't have when I was going through, that they can just Google whatever they want to know. They Google, and just to Google all the famous designers and Google their life stories and see where they started. I mean, Ali Saab is my favorite couturier, and he started in Lebanon when he was 10. Apparently, he pulled down his mother's kitchen curtains when she was shopping and cut them up and got on a sewing machine and made something. Yeah. Well, when she came home, he had to run and hide under a bed, and she had a broom handle. She was whacking him for cutting up the curtains. So designers all start somewhere. Versace started at his mother's knee. She was a seamstress, so he was constantly by her side watching what she was doing.
And is it really important to find your own, I don't know, your own style? Or like when you're getting started, does it really just flood your mind with what all the best in the world are doing, and it will just naturally evolve?
I think you have to follow your own style. You've got to have it. You've got to have that inside of you, that you can design something from scratch and not just follow.
Yeah, right. I think if I was a designer, all my clothes are either going to be T-shirts, or they're going to be a full something covered in sequins and rhinestones and like Elvis's suits. So somewhere in between. Maybe
sounds like Queen of the Desert.
Yeah, maybe we could blend some of those things. Yeah. Yeah. And so in an ideal sense, do you think that somebody that really wants to make it as a fashion designer in this day and age, they really do need to go and immerse themselves and live in places like New York, Paris, Milan to,
Look,
really...
if I'm the global, I'd have to say I'm the global representative of the Paris American Academy of Fashion School in France. So I speak to students all over the world that want to go to Paris to study. Ideally, if they can go, you can do a month course just to get a taste of it. You can do a year course. You can do a 3-year course. And like the month course in June, all the students dress the models at Fashion Week. So they're behind the scenes in Fashion Week, which is just so sensational.
Yeah.
And they live on the left bank. So they have kitchenettes, they flat with 2 or 3 other girls, and they live and breathe Paris. Yes. And the academy takes them to where they make fabrics, where they make laces. They're taught from the ground up. And having that on your resume when you come back to Australia, for instance, my niece, she did a year in the Paris American Academy, and she was offered a job with Yves Saint Laurent.
Oh,
so
wow.
she worked there. And my nephew studied there, and he's in the Queensland Hall of Fame, Anthony Lee Dower, for his designing. He's won just about every award there is to win in Queensland. And that was from studying in Paris. So if anyone's interested on how to do that, they can contact me and I'll help them.
Yeah, sure. We'll share your details in a moment. Best business advice you've ever received?
Oh, I've had fabulous mentors, so many mentors. I guess it's, work smart, not hard.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It would have to be, because I run around the world and now I'm a lot smarter the way I do it.
Yeah, nice. And so given you said you're traveling about 5 months of the year, how do you manage that with your personal life, family life, and so forth? Obviously, the kids and stuff don't travel, but does your husband travel with you? Does that make it easier?
Yeah, sometimes he comes with me, and he travels with his company. So we tend to work it that we're away at the same time.
Yeah.
And after 34 years, it works. We're excited to see each other.
Yeah, nice.
No humdrum in this household.
Okay, then. So second last question. What best personal advice in managing relationships then? You've got a lot of experience of success there too. What's your tip there?
Giving each other space.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and respect.
One at the Gold Coast, one in New York. There.
I think if you have respect and integrity, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Lovely. And so, Liz, if people want to get in touch with you, I will put the contact details in the commentary below the podcast. But if you want to give yourself a shout out right now, how people can get in touch with you.
Well, they can just go lizcliftinternational.com. My email is liz at lizcliftinternational.com.au.
Sweet. And are you available for, if people want to say, oh, yes, I want you to design, one outfit or whatever. Do you still do that, or?
Not so much anymore, but if they like what they see on the webpage, of course, they can buy from the webpage. And I'm more than happy to speak to people that are interested in getting into fashion, because I'm at the age of my life now, I like to give back. And I have students scattered in various countries that I help, from South Africa, America, and so they can.
Great. Well, I might be in touch to work on that rhinestone suit for my next podcast interview. I had I don't know whether you probably know this, but Elvis's traveling show went to Bendigo here in Victoria. Did you get to see all the his car and all his outfits and stuff? So Bendigo is my hometown.
My father's hometown too.
Oh wow.
Little Bendigo, yeah.
I traveled up there to see it, and I was just amazed at the detail of all the patterns and the rhinestones, the sequins, everything else that was on it, and just imagining how heavy these things must have been to wear, like his capes and that kind of stuff. But it gave me a real appreciation for, wow, such creative flair that the designer had.
Well, they weigh a ton, and when I was designing for Joe Daniels, he was the top Elvis impersonator in America for 3 years running. Then he moved to Australia, and his costumes, all the studying and the embroideries, and they were very, very heavy. And he also was the lead in the Rocky Horror Show. So I did the costumes for the Rocky Horror Show. And that was amazing, because with the corsets, the cords kept snapping because of the movement on stage. So I had to go to a sailmaker and have grommets put in to lace up through the grommets so the fabric didn't tear. And then I had to show the wardrobe mistress how you had to pull your leg up and put your foot in the back and lace the costumes up.
Like the old corset way.
So when people are watching a stage show, they have no idea what really is going on out the back.
Yeah, what goes on behind the scenes. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for today, Liz. This has been tremendously wonderful. Congratulations on all your success. You deserve it. I know you're very humble, and people probably have listened today and thought, oh, well, it's really easy, but I know it's not easy at all. You make it sound easy, but the hard work and the rewards that you're now getting are thoroughly deserved. So congratulations on that, and thanks for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you, Rob. It's been a pleasure. Loved having a chat with you.